Welcome to a special episode of Product Talk, the award-winning podcast brought to you by Products That Count, the world's largest nonprofit community, engaging over 500,000 product managers and chief product officers, united by a mission to empower everyone to build products that truly count. In a world flooded with products, only a few ignite passion, deliver value at scale, and transform lives. Behind those exceptional products are visionary CPOs and high-performing product teams. We recognize these trailblazers through our coveted awards, accelerate careers from PM to the C-suite and beyond, through daily best practices, and serve as the trusted advisor to nearly all Fortune 1000 CPOs. Our corporate alliance includes Walmart, Ford, Cisco, Johnson & Johnson, Amplitude, and more. The most admired product leaders across industries serve on our advisory council, guiding the future of product leadership. Together, we're shaping a future where every product counts. Learn more at productsthatcount.org. This episode is produced in partnership with Nottingham Spirk Innovation Hub and features an exclusive conversation between our CEO, Hoda, Mehr, and three industry leaders. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, I am Hoda Mehr, CEO of Products Account, and in this episode of Product Talk, we're going to do something a little bit different. We recently hosted an executive invite-only product salon in New York in partnership with EY's innovation team, bringing together 50 plus product leaders from companies such as NBC Universal, Noom, Pepsi, and many other household names. What happened in that room on that evening was too powerful not to share with you. But instead of just sharing with you the raw recording of the event, I want to take you through this journey of the most important themes of the night. My guests, Steve Wanner, Jason Ertel, and Brent Duersch, portfolio leader, engineer leader, and innovation leader of the Ernest& Young Nottingham Spirk Innovation Hub, who were the guest speakers and participants of the product salon in New York. And together, we're going to unpack some of the most important themes of the evening for you. This episode matters to most of you who are focused on product innovation, especially if you are at the intersection of digital and physical product. It was a powerful night, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. The first thing that really impressed me when you bring together a diverse group of product leaders from very different industries, such as energy, finance, media, consumer packaged good, you'd expect the conversation is not going to be as deep because these product leaders may not have as much common topics and challenges to discuss. But what happened in the room was quite the opposite.
I loved the event because the event just had this fantastic vibe, right? And there's something about being up over the 48, up on the 48th floor, overlooking all of New York, got a little jazz band in the corner, setting the mood, right? And we had just a very organic discussion about the realities of what a lot of product managers and product owners are facing in both the space of physical digital convergence as well as the role of AI involved in product development. And if I think about what really stood out to me, it was this natural cross-sector and cross-industry collaboration and discussion that was happening, right? Is that everybody starts talking, starts roaming around the room a little bit. You've got folks from financial services talking to folks from telecom. You've got folks from entertainment talking to folks from consumer products. You've got healthcare folks in the room, and you realize very quickly that the challenges, a lot of the issues, opportunities that you're facing in the world of product ownership, it's the same regardless of, there are a lot of similarities regardless of what industry and sector you're in. So it's a great feeling to be in an environment like that and sort of have that realization of like, I'm not alone on this journey and with some of the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
That night, it really became clear for me. We are all facing the same innovation challenges. And that's a powerful realization for anyone building across boundaries, across industries. product innovation is a challenge for everyone, and we're not alone. The next thing that stood out, and the evolution of chief product officers and the role of product function in general. Now we're seeing product leaders are not just reacting to this bigger and broader company strategy, they're actually defining the bigger and broader company strategy.
Brent and I work very closely together, and we have to because the handoff between where EY and NS pick up, it actually is not it's not a sharp line. It's actually a lot of overlap as in the handoff that is. And so on the front end, and there's a great slide that Brent has put together that is very concise, that really moves from left to right in terms of client interaction. You think strategy, you think big picture, you think growth that Steve talks about on that left side of the page. And what are those things that the EY team has world-class capability to do? And then as they are sort of coming in for a landing from a strategy and growth perspective, they are then able to pass off to our team, to Brent and I, and as it goes from Brent to even to the NS team more specifically, when we're thinking about how we're going to integrate the digital, the strategy, the physical, and all those together in what some might think of as a true product, just pure product development stage of the process. But then it's not just NS by themselves, it's together with EY. And then as we begin to hit that commercialization stage and actually get to the market, that is when EY puts it in high gear and kicks it in the rest of the way in terms of other supply chain, other activities, other digital enablement, and really being able to launch and sustain post product launch. So from end to end, that is the framework in which we operate. And while a client can come in at any one of those points, and we can certainly add value, we see many of them come in for a strategy session, and then as they work through that, then they lead into often a digital physical solution, which together we work on. But I'll defer to Brent and Steve for how they see it from their perspective.
Another thing that impressed me the most was the innovation framework that Ernst& Young and the Nottingham Spirk innovation team have created. The way they take their partners through a innovation framework is quite impressive. They do it in a way that it starts from strategy, it goes to product design, and then it continues into commercialization, which is something that is very rare to see. Most of the time, innovation happens in isolation and it's very difficult to commercialize it. But these guys at the Nottingham Spirk Innovation Center have come up with a framework that actually breaks down the silos between different parts of the product innovation and make it into a comprehensive and cohesive product strategy across the organization.
Part of the charm is the seamlessness, yeah, I think, in which we work between the physical and the digital worlds. And one of the challenges that, I've even experienced this in a prior life as a product owner, right? Is you've got your physical team, your teams that's focused on like designing and launching and taking a physical product to market, and you've got another team that's developing all of the digital components associated with it. And if you think about the challenges of it, those teams typically have different leaders in the organization. They're managed by different metrics. They've got different processes. You've probably got one that's running kind of classic waterfall or stage gate, while the other is trying to do agile, right? And you think about that in some corporate environments, and it can become a little bit like oil and water. Like the IT folks don't want to talk to the R&D folks and engineers. The R&D folks and engineers don't want to talk to the IT folks. Yeah, I think one of the charms, one of the beauties of how we've integrated our process between EY and Nottingham Spurt is it takes a lot of that friction and pain out, right? We understand each other's processes, we understand the lingo, we understand all of the touch points between the physical products and the digital products from an overarching consumer experience standpoint. And it seems to make for much smoother sailing than I had ever, kind of previously experienced in my prior corporate life.
So if your company struggles across different companies and there is a chaos and chaotic experience happening cross-functionally, this innovation framework by Nottingham Spirk Innovation Center might be something that you want to pay attention to. One story and one example brought all of the innovation challenges together. This is a story of a product design for smart water heater that actually brought all of the conversation of the night together.
Yeah, so Hoda, it's interesting. When I first went out to NS, probably about a year and a half ago, the team was showing me a project that we had done for it was an HVAC hot water heater company, and they had worked with the company to put um, heat pump technology into it, censored up the whole thing so that they could give their maintenance workers like real clear understanding and the client a real clear or the customer a real clear understanding of when a maintenance issue came up, if there was a water leak, things like that. And that was and we had built the digital backbone for that. It was really good. But then we started thinking about it. We said, gosh, what that really is a hot water heater is a thermal battery. And Nottingham Spirk invented a water mixer so that even though you heated the water up really hot, it would come out at 110 degrees. So they made this patented mixer technology for it, and such that the hot water heater can heat up to 190 degrees, and then in the middle of the night, and then effectively trickle that water out during the day at 110 degrees. And then we build a digital backbone to hook those hot water heaters into all the local utilities, load shedding and load balancing requirements that they had with the regulators. And we build an app where the customers could opt in to use their water heater for energy. And they were talking to me about as an industrial product. I said, guys, what we really developed here is an end-to-end energy transition cross-sector solution, right? And it really that's when it really hit me the impact, especially where we are today with technology, that product owners and R&D shops can really have to our society, not just in their vertical sector they work in, but what we really do is step back and say, what are the other adjacent sectors that can benefit from what we're inventing here? And you really open up the aperture in terms of the impact that you're having. We probably have two, three, four stories of things that we invented as we started going through. We're like, wait a minute, like you think about that hot water heater thing I talked about. It's great for the real estate industry. Then you start thinking about, oh, it has leak detection, automated leak detection. The insurance industry can really benefit from that technology. So by the time we finished this, we had taken HVAC industry into power and utilities industry, into the real estate market, into the insurance market. And all of our sector leaders went out and talked to their stakeholders at their individual clients, and we all got into a discussion about how could this invention that we did, this product that we developed, really benefit multiple sectors. And that multiplier is what's so exciting about the innovation hub. And I think, not just we got EY and NS, but I think when product developers and CPOs are thinking about their products, that's the way they need to think about what is it, not company for company, but also company for others, and how do you start connecting across companies? It's great stuff.
I think that's a multiplier effect when your product creates value for more than just your end users, but actually for an ecosystem of partners in your industry. I think industrial innovation is much harder. Fewer feedback loops, more legacy infrastructure, but when it works, it's really transformative.
Uh, yeah, I actually, when I hear this one, I really like it a lot because it has to me, the answer is it depends, but it's more about yes and no, not so much it depends. Here's why I say that. So, in the consumer space. Now, my background's medical, Brent's consumer, and while I've worked on consumer products in my career, um, consumer is very visual. There's a lot of aesthetics. There's a lot of factors, and Brent said it. That's the connection to the customer. What does the customer ultimately want? How do they want it to look? How do they want it to feel? The user experience is very, very front of mind. And then you get into the industrial side, and often it's tied to metrics, and those metrics are unforgiving. In fact, sometimes they're misleading. And I think one of the things that we do differently that I think it doesn't necessarily make it harder or easier. That's why I said it depends as part of my answer. You have to get to the customer, whoever that stakeholder is, no matter whether you're talking about a consumer product, industrial, I could go on and on. But speaking of industrial, you have to find who those stakeholders are. Let's take the example of the water heater. Yes, you have the end customer who is turning the faucet on or turning on the shower. But then you also have that contractor, the plumber, the dealer who's going to be installing that. You also have a utility involved. That's that ecosystem again. You look at all of those stakeholders across, and what is their user experience like? If you can make this is a, I've gleaned from John Nottingham and John Spirk, the co-founders and CEOs of Nottingham Spirk over the last several years. And the one thing they always go to is, what does the end user ultimately want? And that stakeholder. So we have to know, and in that industrial space, you still have to get down to the line. We always go and see. That's a principle for Nottingham Spirk in our process of development. The insights from going to a line leader for manufacturing, or the person turning the actual screw or using a torque wrench, going to that level, but also talking to the GM, right? Or the plant manager, and getting all that input. All of that still has to feed through the same framework of how we develop products, how we develop a process, all of that for industrial. So all of those together, you still have to understand the metrics, but you also have to understand the unique use cases for each one of those stakeholders in that sort of value chain. And that's really how I see it, how we see it in terms of innovating in the industrial space. It is how we it's how we really deliver and have so much success in that as well. This is what I really believe.
So I'll give maybe a different perspective. I agree with everything that my colleagues have said, but I think that the opportunity to innovate and in industrials is big. It is hard to do. Culturally, it's hard. But you just think about the industrial excellence that the United States has. We'll just talk about the United States. Like our big industrial clients have tens of thousands of patents of product that they developed in the past. And one of the things that we do is we look at those patents and we say, this technology or this application, that what you've built here could be applied in a totally different way with the advent of technology. And there's so many things that we've repurposed. And so when you think about an industrial client and how many entitlements they have on their balance sheet, endowments that they accumulated that are just sitting there waiting to be reinvented. So we have an example of a client that had a really good geospatial technology in their product that we repurposed into a totally different application, created a new revenue stream for them that they had never contemplated before. So I think it's hard, but I think that the opportunity is very large in the industrial side because there's just been such accumulated intangibles that they have that are just waiting to be repurposed, reinvented. It's like the most exciting thing for me. Now I'm biased. I lead our industrials and energy group, so of course I think it's easy, but it is certainly exciting.
Of course, when you bring a group of product leaders together, you cannot stop talking about AI. The AI topic came up again and again, and the conversation was around whether using AI make innovation harder or easier. It's not very clear. The truth actually depends on how you're using AI. And I found this conversation with Jason and Steve quite helpful.
Nottingham Spirk, right? So we're known for innovation. It's what we've been doing for 50 plus years. And so when you stop and you think about what AI tools are out there today for how people generate ideas, albeit maybe some strange ideas, but still the proliferation and the use of AI and the different tools that are out there have just exploded in the last couple of years, right? To the point where they're commonplace. We did a survey at Nottingham Spurk, just understanding what tools we were using. We had 50 AI tools that we were leveraging just to do our normal jobs, right? And so we've even released an AI policy for how we leverage any of those tools, because it is a challenging space. because you get into intellectual property. Where was the idea generated? That's a category I'm not going to go down today, but might be interesting podcast for the future. But in particular, how do we as innovators govern our way of generating ideas, patenting ideas, all of that? Where is the source and where is that coming from? And while the framework, possibly, and some ideas are going to come from generating some images or something like this from AI, it still comes down to the expertise of how you move a product from an idea to actually commercializing a product. And so while we also have ways in our services and everything else, and I really don't want to go heavy into, the way that we innovate now with AI it speeds the process, but it also throws a unique curveball into it. And I'll stop with this and let the others answer. The hardware that you put into a product, do you put in, I'm going to use a car analogy. Do you put in a 600 horsepower engine? Do you put in a 180 horsepower engine? Or do you put in a 40 horsepower engine that just gets you from point A to point B? Well, it depends on the requirements. So some things will require that top end, high performing, high energy usage product in terms of the hardware, doing edge processing for AI to be able to do those things very, very quickly with almost zero latency. But in other instances where you're just taking kilobytes of data, but you need to find the insightful data and you only want to use 2 watts, not 200 watts, at the edge for power or whatever that might be, we customize for the application, no different than the way we look at requirements for anything else like we have in the past, but with AI and embedded AI doing processing at the edge. That's one area that NS is really focused on the hardware and customizing for the exact application.
Yeah, well, it's certainly making it more exciting, more confusing. Um, it's making it harder because of all the reasons that Jason said, like how do you use it efficiently? I think there's a lot of capital being spent on AI technologies, and how do we work in the business? People are having difficulty figuring out the return. From our firm has a view that there's four futures that could come out of AI. Like one is like it's constrained, right? That you can't get your enterprise data set clean enough. You can't figure out the hallucinations, and therefore the uptake of using it, while it's really interesting, it's going to be hard to industrialize. I think as we get further and further along, we're probably there now in a lot of industries, a lot of companies, but people are moving out of that. But that is, I think the other constraint is if you can't figure out your power grid and get enough energy to run your data centers, that could be a constraint in a particular jurisdiction, like in the U.S. The second one is it really transformed the way you work. So this is you have really figured out how to build agentic workflows and replace physical agents or human agents with digital agents, and you can run your processes much more efficiently. The third is it's a true growth platform. So not only are you using it in your workflows, but you're also, fundamentally changing your product profile, and things that had a lot of human intervention in order to operate take the whole logistics trucking system is totally transformed into an end-to-end autonomous logistic process, right? Where everything is run through continuous AI. And then the fourth one, which is probably the scariest, is control. And this means that you have either there is a very, very significant consolidation of AI engines and digital twins in two, three, four, either nation states or very large technology companies. And those companies have built end-to-end sector processes that are going to fundamentally replace entire sectors. And that's a little bit scary, right? But that's a possibility, right? If and there's a lot of discussion now. I think 2 years ago, you'd ask a client, "Do you want to be?" I'd ask a company, "Do you want to be on the leading edge or a fast follower?" And everyone said fast follower. And I think more and more people are saying, "I need to be a leader in this," because they're increasingly getting afraid that if they don't invest now, it's going to be very hard to catch up because Moore's law is replicating so quickly. right? The innovation cycle and the technology cycles that used to be measured in years are now measured in months, sometimes weeks, in terms of how quickly things are changing. I mean, I think we're probably not a long time, but I don't think it's imminent that everything's going to become the growth scenario. But it is really, I think the conversations are really changing rapidly, about how to benefit from AI and what are the risks if you don't try to.
So AI innovation, using AI innovation isn't just about tools. It's about how we think, how we prioritize, and how we build in this AI native world that is emerging around all of us. As we wrapped this unpacking episode, I asked each of my guests whether they have any advice for product leaders and community, and I really enjoyed some of the advice they provided. Let's take a listen.
At Nottingham Spirk, the people we hire, which are think special ops folks, right? It's people who really know how to innovate across so many different sectors and are not put off by learning something new for the first time. Okay, so that is our mindset at Nottingham Spirk. That's just framing that up. The world has to take on this idea that you need to still be open to learning. And so while we've kind of exercised that muscle, and I love talking to my kids about this, my son will point out something and I'll say, oh, we've worked in that, we've done that, just because we've done so many different things. And it's a little mind boggling, even for myself, right? It's a privilege. But the attitude of still learning, you do need to take on that mindset of, I need to learn something new in this space. I need to be open to kind of fighting through some of the pushback that we all feel like. I'm done with college. I'm done with the, whatever that might be. I've been done for years. I don't have to learn something new again. But I'm going to tell everybody here, you have to have the attitude of still being able to learn and bring in this new information. You have to still be able to make and prioritize, what am I really going to spend my time on in this new space of AI? So you have to have that mindset of learning. That's one of the first things.
Certainly there's AI has a lot of potential and a lot of capability. One thing that I think what AI will never replace is going out and actually talking to customers, going out into the field and seeing the people that you're developing products for, experience the pain points firsthand, articulate those pain points, right? Understanding what their ideal state is, right? And being able to bring that back and translate it into something tangible.
John Nottingham has a great slide and speech about innovation. And this is really it is really hard to innovate and do your daily job every day because it's two different operating rhythms, and left to your own devices, you will do your day job. And carving out either a group that's working at a different cadence, a different operating rhythm, or carving out time for yourself, 10% of your time to just think, what could the future look like, and do a future back view versus an incremental improvement view. And that's really hard to do. But I think things are changing pretty quickly. Like it's an imperative that we all do that.
Oh, let me wrap up. If you're building in today's world, your job isn't just to ship features. That became apparent from this conversation. It is so to cross boundaries between your department, other departments, outside your company, and through your entire industry. You need to think in systems and lead with curiosity. Well, that was the evening in New York. I hope you found it as insightful as I did. And thank you very much to Evi and Nottingham Spirk Innovation Center, specifically Steve, Jason, and Brent, who came up and helped me unpack the evening for you. Until next time, keep shipping products that truly count.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.